Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to Rink Diaries, local Iceman here. So in the past, I've done a little intro on the Zamboni, how it works. I've talked a little bit about ice maintenance, but I really haven't talked about how to drive the Zamboni itself. So before you get on the Zamboni, and before we discuss how you drive the Zamboni, I'm going to show you and talk about where you drive the Zamboni as far as driving patterns. So how I'm going to approach this, I'm going to do a video about the driving pattern. But then in the subsequent videos, when I have someone new to train, I'm going to actually show you how I train a driver. And that's really how I'm going to show you how to drive the Zamboni, is by showing how I train someone. But like I was saying, before you get on the machine, you need to know where to drive it. There's a few different Zamboni patterns that you could do, ice resurfacing patterns, so to say, that you could drive. So basically, I'm going to be referring to an NHL sheet of ice. I know there's Olympic sheets out there, and there's also sheets a little bit smaller. But since I deal with the NHL sheet of ice, and most of the rinks around the country here, at least in the States, are NHL sheets, that's what mainly I'm going to be referring to throughout the video. As well as this is going to be more for a single machine use. For a dual machine use, you know, we really don't drive two machines on the ice at once. Can't imagine it's terribly hard. As soon as you know how to drive the machine, it just takes a little time to get used to driving someone else on the ice. So for our ice rink here, how we get on the ice with the Zamboni door being behind the goals here, 8 laps is the minimum amount it takes to get the ice done. And that's going to vary depending on how big your rink is. But for an NHL sheet, 8 laps minimum is what it takes to get it done. And that probably also depends where your Zamboni door is. All right, here our rink, our machine comes out right here. So if we start our pattern right along the player bench doors, then if we subsequently go up the middle this way, we come out going this way. However, if you start your pattern going up this way, you kind of end up going out this way towards the other side of the building, and that's where you have to turn around and come back out. But before I get too deep into this, not all patterns start around the outside of the rink. However, I'm going to discuss those ones first before I introduce the ones where you start up the middle. All right, so for your initial laps around the outside of the rink, for an NHL size rink, you could do 1 to 3 laps around the outside before you have to go up the middle. Again, you have to do 1 lap because you have to do turns, and I don't really want to explain why you have to do 1 lap before. It just makes better ice. And anyway, you have to do at least 1 to maximum 3 laps around the outside before you have to go up the middle. If you try to do 4 laps before you go up the middle on an NHL size rink, you're not going to have room or space to churn. For an Olympic size rink, you could probably do 4 or 5 turns around the outside before you go up the middle. But it probably depends what size machine you have. If you have a 77-inch blade, you probably can do 4 or 5 times before you head up the middle. But if you have a 120-inch machine, you probably can only do, again, maybe 3 laps before you have to go up the middle on an Olympic size rink. But nevertheless, 3 laps maximum is what you could do before you have to head up the middle on an NHL size rink. As far as 1 lap versus 3 laps before you head up the middle, so okay, if you did just 1 lap around the outside before you went up the middle, when you come back around, your churn is going to be much longer than if you did 2 laps or 3 laps. Just realize that. If you do, because you're going to realize it's not just one circle here. The boards, at least on an NHL size rink, you have a curved part, a flat part, then a curved part. So if you just do 1 lap before you went up the middle, you're going to also have to churn straight and drive actually straight for a little bit before you head back up the middle. Conversely, if you did 3 laps before you went up the middle, your churns are really tight. As you come back through here, it's almost one tight churn. And that's where you can't really do 4 laps around the outside, because if you try to do 4, you'd end up power sliding the machine. And on small rinks, with our small rink, on the second to last lap, I believe you had to power slide it to get in position so you could come back through on your last lap and come outside of the rink. On a small rinks, you have to power slide, but on bigger rinks, you really shouldn't be sliding. And that's one thing I kind of digress here real quick. You really shouldn't be sliding the machine in the corners. You should be driving the machine through the corners. You gotta slow down a little bit, and I already talked about keeping your foot down as you go through the middle of the ice, but as you come through the corners, just slow down a little bit. Don't have the machine sliding through the corner to get in position, because if the machine slides, the studded tires just scrape the ice. So again, just realize if you do 1 lap around the outside versus 2 versus 3, your churn's going to be tighter or less tighter depending on what you do. So I kind of recommend that you mix it up a little bit throughout the night. Do 1 lap, 2 lap, 3 lap, however you want to do it, just kind of mix it up through the night or throughout the day. And one thing I'll say too, 1 lap versus 3 lap, one advantage of that is just you shift the wear points over the creases right here. Because if you're making your turns, when you do 2 laps around the outside, as you make your turns, you're kind of making it over to the crease. So if you do 3 laps around the outside, you're bringing that turn point just out in front of the crease. So that's one advantage of doing 1 lap, 2 lap versus 3 laps. If you're doing 1 lap around the outside, your turn point is a little bit behind the crease. And one thing to note, as far as your overlapping, I'm going to start talking about here in a second when you begin. But when you do your overlaps, after you've done your first pass, you're coming into your second. Say if you've done your first pass, you're coming into your second pass around the outside. Make sure in this area right here that you don't overlap too much, because at the end, as you do your passes, you'll find that it could be a little spot here and maybe only be like 2 or 3 feet long, 6 inches wide. But if you overlap the second lap here too much, or if you do 3 times around the outside, if you overlap so much, as you do your last lap, there may even be a strip like this that you miss. And you may wonder why. At times probably you'll have a strip here you miss, but over here it's perfect. You don't miss anything at the end. You actually have to come back around and get this side right here. That's because you've overlapped too much on your second lap before you went up the middle. And what happens is you kind of come out and you correct, and you kind of see that line you're supposed to drive on, and that's why you're able to get this ice done here, but you have a spot right here that's done. And one thing, kind of all over the place here, but when you make your passes up the middle, one thing to remember when you're on a machine, the middle of the machine is right here. It's not where you're at. So if you come up the middle of the ice with you in the middle of the ice, you're going to be too far over to the right too much. So when you come up through the middle of the ice, you want the center of the machine to come up the center of the ice with you off to the left a little bit. And you want to pick a spot that's out far in front of you to drive forward, to drive a straight line. That's just the best way that I find to do it. I think most people, that's how they're taught. Because one thing is your first line up the middle kind of dictates your second one up the middle, what dictates your third one up the middle. So if you come, let me erase this here a little bit. So if you come up the middle, all kind of like this, and so then you come up here again, and it's your second pass, it has to be with it. So you're going to be coming here at an angle like this way, and no matter which way it is. So that's why when you come up, you want to come up nice and straight, because at the end here, and this is where, in that case, you probably get this spot over here, but you may have this spot here. And that's where I say 8 laps is at least the minimum amount it takes to get the ice done on an NHL sheet of ice, as well as not making any mistakes. So doing 9 laps, I think that's acceptable. One thing you don't want to do as you're coming up across the middle of the ice is keep on missing tiny spots. Then come up again and miss another tiny spot, because you can't really get that. It's much better as a beginner perhaps to overlap a little bit too much than to keep missing spots, because it's much better to have one section of ice to get at the end versus having all these little missed spots, because you're not going to be able to get that. It's just, much better to overlap maybe a little bit too much than keep missing spots. So that's 1 lap versus 3 laps around the outside, plus some other random stuff I threw in there. But as far as when you first drop your conditioner on the ice, how I kind of see it, especially as a new driver, and again, our door is right here. And if your door is over here, again, it's going to probably dictate a little bit if you're going to have 8 or 9 laps, or there's that dehumidifier. I'm just going to talk through it this time. Ideally, at our rink, we start along the player benches here or right here. Starting right here makes it so you come out this way, and starting over here makes it so you're coming this way, but you have to turn around and come out this way. So, for the example right here, I'm just going to talk about starting on this side of the rink. So as a new driver, what I suggest is when you drive out, and we always back out. This is kind of how it is with our hot water on being on the right side of the machine. So, and I think it's better that you have to back out on the machine versus driving straight, because you really can't see in front of you. But if you have to drive out straight, I'm not saying that anything is wrong with that. I just think that driving out backwards is actually a little bit more safe, because as you back on the ice, you don't actually hit anyone. Because I hate to say it, you shouldn't bring the machine on the ice when there's people on it, but there's cases where they don't get off the ice until you start backing the machine on it. You'd be honking the horn, and just yesterday at the public skate, the kids are all skating around. It's like, get off the ice, you fools. As a new driver, I recommend having to start this when you come through here. You kind of drop your conditioner down, get your augers going, get any kind of blade set, so your board brush on, so by the time you hit the red line, kind of have everything going. Or if you back out the machine this way, you want to drop the conditioner down, augers, water, blade, board brush, all that, and have it going by the red line. The back of the machine, the conditioner by the red line. And that's just a reference point I'm talking about for this example right here. So by the time your water's going, because it takes a few feet for it to kind of start soaking up the ice, and so you hit by the blue line right here, you're nice and going. And so you do your first lap around the outside. And one thing when I get to is don't start your water or your pattern way back here, because then even if you start your second lap right here and you come back around, you're gonna have all this wet ice you have to overlap. That's just not good. So what you want to do is on your first lap, what you want to do basically is start your pattern later in your ice versus earlier in your ice. It's just better that way. And so as you come back through, you want to overlap not just the machine, but the back of the conditioner has to overlap over the ice that you've done. So as soon as you've kind of done that, then you start your second lap and you kind of go around the outside. And at this point right here, it's okay to overlap just a little area right here. Now that's fine. You just don't want to overlap this big, huge area here. So, and you come back through and you make your turn and you go up the middle. And that's point, if you want to do 3 laps, that's fine. Or if you want to do 1 lap, that's fine. If you do 1 lap, you're gonna have to break out a little bit to get ready for the boards to make your turn up the middle. So, and then once you go up the middle, it's pretty standard stuff. You know, I'm not gonna get too much into it. You know, you just boom, bang, bang, and you're done. So, and again, for our rink, if you're starting this way, you end up that way. If you start over here, again, I recommend the same thing. Get everything going in this little area right here. So your water and everything's going by the blue line, you're cooking. So then, but you're gonna end up this way. You know what, that's not a big deal if you end up this way, because if you have something you've missed, you can make a turn back around and grab it. So it's not the end of the world to have to do an extra half a lap. I don't know if there's anything I've missed while I'm racing this thing here as far as 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps out the middle. That's your standard Zamboni ice resurfacer pattern. Again, I can't speak too much about having it coming out in a corner or the sides here or different parts of the rink, but I imagine you're going to be doing the same thing and starting right along here into the corner. Some drivers come from different rinks, I've seen them start really late here in the corner. That's fine. That's fine. You know, I typically start right over here, but it's no big deal. One thing that, because you are overlapping water and blade, and we do have a thin area right here, so that's why it's good. And I do encourage my drivers to start over here. That way the overlap point doesn't get hit as hard over here. If everyone did that, this always be overlap. And like I said in the water video or the water tank video, whatever I called it, that as you're laying water, as you're going as you get deeper and deeper into your cut, you're laying less and less water. So by flip-flopping where you start, you're laying heavy water typically where you'd be laying less water, and you'd be laying less water typically where you'd be laying heavy water. So it kind of just evenly distributes out a little bit versus always doing the same thing. And I guess let me back up real quick, because I kind of forgot one thing. So during a public skate where you have most of the skaters are skating kind of like in this area here, I mean they're out here and they do come in here, but most of your wear is this area here. If you have like some freestyle figure skaters or people kind of talking in the middle and people kind of going really slow around the outside, but most of your wear is right in here. So what I like to do is after a public skate, I like to come out and do 3 times around the outside before I go up the middle, because I feel like I get most of the powder before I have to go up the middle, and it kind of helps me gauge a little bit. Because what happens is if you do 2 times, then go up the middle, at the end, as your tank fills up, and at the end, there'll be a spot here that's pretty still beat up and a lot of powder that you go through after your last lap before you go outside. So I feel like getting 3 times around the outside, this gets most of the snow up, so when you do your passes up the middle and you kind of do your final pass up the middle, you're not hitting the heavy snow. So that's why I kind of prefer 3 laps around the outside for the public skates. So I think that's enough as far as patterns around the outside. All right, so for starting up the middle, typically I want to do this between hockey games. This is how I flood the ice. If I'm going to go out there and just lay water and drag my towel, this is kind of how I start my floods. I really don't flood the corners a lot, so typically when I start my flood, I don't really do a traditional Zamboni run. It's just something a little bit different. So when I start, basically, is I kind of drive on the ice and I get going right here. And you go around the outside once. Then this is where it gets a little bit tricky right here. Then as you come right here and you cross over what you've done already, you pull away from the board, you turn your board brush off, and you start your second pass this way. Then you come over here, then you start tapering on this side over here. Then again, I think you can see exactly what's going on here. Then you start basically doing that. It's almost like a one pass up the middle type deal, but you're starting up the middle. And that could be achieved, same thing, coming up this way. Now I said I was doing that when I was flooding the ice, because that's kind of initially where I kind of first like discovered it, so to say. So I kind of like one day, I'm like, I could do this for an ice cut. But one tricky thing is, as far as like, because we're backing out right here, or if you come out over here, I guess it's a little bit easier, is that you have to get your conditioner down, your blade down, your water going before you cross over, kind of how I see it, before you cross over the goal crease. So as I come through here, everything's going. I'm not making that type of churn. So, but typically I kind of back up and kind of drive straight off this way. So when I'm going, my water's going, my blade's going, I'm just going. And as I come over here, as I get close to the goal crease, I flick my board brush on and start going around the outside. And you just keep going around the outside with your board brush on, doing your normal thing. As you come through here, again, you're gonna have to make sure you hit the spot on the board, keep your board brush on and overlap the area you did. Then you break out into your second lap, flick your board brush off. And again, I think you know what's going on right here next. So it's nothing too special. It's something just a little bit different to do at night or on the weekends. If it's not very busy or I got time between cuts, I'll go up the middle. And again, this kind of changes your overlap points. You don't have that overlap point over your start areas on this side or this side with this type of cut. I guess it just kind of keeps the overlap point over the crease right there, which you got to be careful anyways as you come through there, raise your blade up. All right, now I think I may have covered it all. I'm not sure. If you guys think I missed anything, go ahead and comment below, because again, your comments are important. A few months back, I was watching, I think, Scotty Kilmer. I don't know if you've heard of his channel. I think he's a little auto mechanic. He kind of has a popular channel. You may have seen it or not. But he made a good point about someone's asking about his TV show. He used to have a TV show before he did YouTube. And he says the great thing about YouTube, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that the interaction you get with people. When you did network TV or you just did TV, you didn't have the interaction that you did as you have on the social media or the YouTube channels, where you guys can ask questions and I can answer back. You just don't get that with normal TV, that kind of interaction. So again, please leave comments below and let me know what you guys do at your rinks, because my knowledge is a little bit limited based on where I work. You guys have been watching my videos for a while. You've probably seen where I work. It's not the glamorous NHL rink or a glamorous recreational rink. It's pretty bare bones, but we get by. And I've been doing this for a while, and I feel like I know enough to be able to at least share it, for good or for bad, my experiences. So, and if you guys share experiences, it just makes this channel and all the videos that much better, especially for the people who are coming here to learn something, because I gather there's some people not only who just come here just for general knowledge and just kind of interested about how the machine works, but there's actually people coming here to learn and to better their Zamboni or ice resurfacing skills. And what I'll do is I'll get a video going here. I'm gonna have to wait to get some of the trings. I think that's the best way to show you guys how to drive the Zamboni and how to drive the ice resurfacer, is to show you how I teach someone and how I build up from one part and one task to another, and how I kind of layer it. And plus the few drills that I do. I'm gonna get this done here. Plus the fuel drills, plus the few, plus the few drills that I do to teach people how to drive the machine. I gotta get going here. Someone just came back here. So thanks for watching. And as always, I hope you learned something. And like the local ice man says, stay cool.